Close your eyes for a moment. Now imagine opening them to a world drained of every hue, a reality painted only in shades of gray, black, and white. No crimson sunsets, no emerald forests, no azure skies stretching endlessly above you. This is Mary's world. Mary is brilliant, perhaps the most brilliant scientist who ever lived. She knows everything, and I mean everything there is to know about color. She can recite the exact wavelength of violet light, 380 nanometers. She understands how photons strike the retina, how optical nerves fire in precise sequences, how the visual cortex erupts in cascading neural symphonies. Every equation, every measurement, every physical fact about color vision lives perfectly cataloged in her extraordinary mind. But Mary has never seen color, not once. Then one day, someone places a single red rose before her. And in that instant, something impossible happens. Mary learns something new, something that all her knowledge, all her scientific mastery, all her understanding of physics and neurology could never have prepared her for. She experiences redness for the first time. But wait, how is this possible? If Mary already knew every physical fact about color, every wavelength, every neural pathway, every brain state, then how could she learn anything new? According to the dominant worldview of our time, called Physicalism, everything that exists is physical. Every thought, every feeling, every experience should be reducible to neurons firing and molecules moving. Yet Mary's revelation suggests something troubling, something that challenges the very foundation of how we understand reality itself. If everything that exists can be reduced to neurons firing, then how do we explain the uncontainable mystery of what it feels like to be alive?
To understand why Mary's simple encounter with a red rose shakes the pillars of modern thought, we must journey back through centuries of intellectual warfare. This is not just philosophy. This is the battle for the soul of human understanding. For millennia, thinkers have been divided into two warring camps. On one side stood the materialists, philosophers like Democritus, who declared that nothing exists but atoms swirling in the void, and Thomas Hobbes, who insisted that even human thoughts were nothing more than matter in motion. To them, the universe was a vast machine, intricate but ultimately mechanical. On the other side were the dualists, from Plato with his ethereal realm of perfect forms to René Descartes with his famous declaration, "I think, therefore I am." They argued that mind and matter were fundamentally different substances, that consciousness possessed a quality that could never be reduced to mere physical processes. For centuries, this war raged in philosophy departments and monastery halls. But then, something extraordinary happened. Science began to win. The 19th and 20th centuries brought triumph after triumph. Physics explained the movement of planets and the dance of subatomic particles. Chemistry revealed the molecular basis of life itself. Biology showed how complex organisms emerged from simple chemical processes. One by one, mysteries that had been attributed to gods, souls, and supernatural forces surrendered to scientific explanation. Out of this momentum emerged Physicalism, the modern heir to ancient materialism, but armed with the full power of scientific discovery. Physicalism declared victory. Reality is entirely physical. Every phenomenon, including consciousness itself, is ultimately reducible to brain mechanics, neural networks, and biochemical processes. The conquest seemed complete. Science had not just explained the external world, it had explained us. But then, philosophers began to fight back. Thomas Nagel posed a deceptively simple question. What is it like to be a bat? He wasn't asking about bat anatomy or echolocation mechanics. He was pointing to something deeper, the subjective, lived experience of being a conscious creature, the feeling of existing from the inside. And then Frank Jackson delivered the killing blow with his thought experiment, Mary's Room. Frank Jackson wasn't just playing philosophical games. He was aiming a precision strike at what seemed like science's total victory. Mary's Room revealed a crack in physicalism's armor, a flaw so fundamental that it threatened to bring down the entire edifice of mechanistic explanation. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just how we understand consciousness, but how we understand what it means to be human in an age of scientific materialism.
Why does Mary's Room haunt us? Why does this simple thought experiment, a woman seeing color for the first time, feel like it strikes at something essential about human existence? Because it forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. There is an unbridgeable chasm between explaining an experience and undergoing it. Think about the last time you felt genuine joy, not happiness, joy. That effervescent, almost electric sensation that seems to light you up from within. Now imagine trying to explain that feeling to someone who had never experienced it. You could map every neural pathway, measure every hormone, scan every brain region that activates during joy. You could write dissertations on neurotransmitter cascades and evolutionary advantages of positive emotions. But would any of that capture the feeling itself? Would it convey that indefinable quality of what joy is like from the inside? This is what philosophers call the explanatory gap, the yawning chasm between objective description and subjective experience. And Mary's Room reveals this gap in all its devastating clarity. When Mary sees red for the first time, she doesn't just acquire new information. She acquires something far more mysterious, qualia, the raw, lived essence of experience itself. The redness of red isn't just electromagnetic radiation at 650 nanometers. It's that indefinable quality of redness that floods her consciousness, that cannot be described in words, that can only be experienced. You see, we are hardwired to inhabit phenomenology, the direct, immediate reality of lived experience. Every moment of your existence is suffused with this subjective essence. The warmth of sunlight on your skin isn't just molecular kinetic energy. The taste of chocolate isn't just chemical compounds binding to taste receptors. There's something it's like to experience these things, something irreducibly personal, non-transferable, and impossible to capture in objective terms. Try this. Describe the color blue to someone who was born blind. Not the wavelength, the actual experience of blueness. Try to explain the taste of sweetness to someone who has never tasted sugar. You can't, because these experiences possess a quality that escapes physical description entirely. This reveals a profound cognitive bias in how we approach consciousness. We confuse knowing about with knowing through. We mistake the map for the territory. Neuroscience offers us dazzling images of brains lighting up like Christmas trees, showing us which regions activate during different experiences. But no brain scan has ever shown us the aching pain of heartbreak, the shimmering warmth of love, or the devastating beauty of a sunset. What physicalism misses, what it must miss,
is precisely this gap, our inner theater of experience, the very thing that makes us conscious, feeling beings rather than sophisticated biological computers. And here's what's truly unsettling. If physicalism cannot account for something as simple as Mary's experience of seeing red, if it cannot bridge the explanatory gap between neural activity and subjective experience, then what else about human existence does it fail to capture? The implications ripple outward like cracks in ice. If consciousness possesses irreducible qualities, if qualia cannot be explained away as mere brain states, then the foundations of our scientific worldview begin to tremble. We are left standing at the edge of a mystery that may be more fundamental than we ever dared to imagine. Mary's step out of her colorless room becomes more than a thought experiment. It becomes a revelation of the limits of physical explanation, and perhaps a glimpse into aspects of reality that science, for all its power, may never fully contain.
Today, Mary's room has escaped the confines of philosophy departments and emerged, disguised, in the most pressing debates of our digital age. The stakes are no longer merely academic, they are existential. Walk through Silicon Valley and you'll hear the gospel of digital consciousness preached with religious fervor. Minds are wetware, brains are biological computers. Consciousness is just emergent software running on neural hardware. The prophets of artificial intelligence promise us that silicon minds will soon match and surpass human awareness. They speak of uploading consciousness to the cloud, of achieving digital immortality, of creating artificial beings that will think and feel just as we do. But Mary's room whispers a troubling question. Can consciousness ever truly be simulated? Consider the latest AI systems, marvels of engineering that can paint masterpieces, compose symphonies, and engage in conversations that feel startlingly human. Yet behind their eloquent responses lies nothing but calculation. Patterns recognized, algorithms executed, statistical probabilities computed at inhuman speed. They process information about color, about emotion, about experience. But do they ever see red? Do they ever feel the weight of sadness or the lightness of joy? The reductionist doctrine assumes the answer is obvious. Given sufficient complexity, consciousness will inevitably emerge from computation. But Mary's room suggests something far more unsettling. If consciousness possesses irreducible qualities, if qualia cannot be reduced to physical processes, then no amount of computational power will ever bridge the gap between processing information about experience and actually experiencing it. We see this blind spot manifesting everywhere around us. Mental health treatment maps neural dysfunction with unprecedented precision. Yet therapists still struggle to capture the lived reality of depression, anxiety, or trauma. You can show me brain scans of a grieving person, measure their cortisol levels, map their neural activity down to individual synapses. But none of that touches the actual experience of loss, the hollow ache, the way colors seem drained from the world, the feeling that a piece of your soul has been carved away. Social media algorithms demonstrate this limitation on a massive scale. They assume human engagement can be reduced to metrics, clicks, shares, time spent scrolling. They treat us as input-output machines, feeding us content designed to trigger predictable responses. Yet when you encounter a piece of art that moves you to tears, when you witness an act of kindness that restores your faith in humanity, when you experience a moment of transcendent beauty, those experiences exceed all calculation. They possess a quality that cannot be captured in data points or engagement statistics. The danger becomes clear. In treating ourselves as mere physical machines,
we risk amputating the very core of what makes us human. We reduce the symphony of consciousness to the mere mechanics of the orchestra.
Mary's step into color becomes a powerful metaphor for our digital age. We are surrounded by increasingly sophisticated simulations of human experience, virtual reality worlds, AI companions, digital reconstructions of reality. But simulation is not substance. Processing information about red is not the same as experiencing redness. Computing the patterns of love is not the same as feeling love. As we hurtle toward a future where artificial minds may surpass us in every measurable capacity, Mary's room reminds us of something irreplaceable, the irreducible mystery of subjective experience, the inner light of consciousness that may forever distinguish the experiencer from the simulation, the feeling being from the calculating machine.
We arrive at the end of our journey, but not at answers. Mary stands before us, a red rose trembling in her hand, her eyes wide with the shock of new experience. In that moment, she embodies one of the most profound questions humanity has ever faced. Physicalism promised us a complete map of reality. It offered the seductive vision of a universe entirely explicable through matter, energy, and the laws that govern them. For centuries, this worldview has delivered triumph after triumph, explaining phenomena that once seemed hopelessly mysterious. It gave us antibiotics and space travel, computers and quantum mechanics. It transformed human civilization. But Mary's single step out of her black and white room exposed something troubling: cracks in physicalism's foundation. Her experience of red, simple, immediate, undeniable, revealed aspects of reality that resist physical capture. Consciousness, qualia, the raw fabric of subjective experience, these may represent more than mere matter rearranged. They may point to a layer of existence that will forever elude our equations. Yet, we must resist the temptation of easy answers. Science advances not by settling into comfortable certainties, but by embracing its most challenging questions. Mary's room doesn't demolish physicalism, it reveals its limits. It shows us the horizon where our current understanding meets the vast unknown. Perhaps we are indeed nothing more than elaborate biological machines, and consciousness is simply an emergent property of sufficient complexity, a beautiful illusion generated by neural networks we don't yet fully comprehend. Perhaps the feeling of experiencing red, the sensation of being you, the inner theater of consciousness are simply patterns of brain activity that future science will decode completely. Or perhaps Mary's revelation points to something more profound. Perhaps consciousness represents a fundamental feature of reality, as basic as matter and energy themselves. Perhaps the irreducible quality of experience, the redness of red, the pain of loss, the ecstasy of love, reveals that physicalism tells only half the story of existence. The truth is, we don't know, and perhaps that uncertainty is exactly where we should be. Mary's room doesn't offer us the comfort of final answers. Instead, it offers us something more valuable: the recognition that the most crucial, defining aspects of human existence may forever dance at the edge of our understanding. It reminds us that we are not problems to be solved, but mysteries to be lived. As Mary stands transfixed by that red rose, she represents all of us. Conscious beings suspended between the mechanical and the magical, between explanation and experience, between what we can measure and what we can feel. She embodies the magnificent paradox of being human in a universe that may be far stranger, far more wonderful than our theories can contain. The red rose trembles in her hand, not the death of science, but its most thrilling riddle. The place where knowledge meets mystery,
where understanding touches the infinite, where the mechanical universe reveals its most precious secret, the irreducible miracle of what it feels like to be alive.